Think about that quiet ache you feel after scrolling through social media, seeing everyone else's perfect lives, and then pretending your own is just as flawless. You post a highlight reel, say what you think others want to hear, change your clothes or your words just to fit in, and deep down, you're exhausted. That constant effort to impress drains your energy, leaves you feeling empty, and pulls you further from who you really are. It's a fear we all know, the fear of not being enough, of being judged or rejected if we show our true selves. But what if that chase for approval is the very thing holding you back from real peace and strength? What if the moment you stop performing, you finally start living? If this resonates with you, hit that like button right now. It helps spread this message. And subscribe to the channel with notifications on, so you never miss these Stoic insights that can change how you live. Number 1. The hidden cost of seeking approval. Many of us spend years carefully building a version of ourselves that is designed only to win praise from others. We choose careers that sound impressive, pick friends who elevate our status, and even adopt hobbies that look good on the outside. But this constant shaping comes at a steep and hidden price. Every single time we twist our actions or words just to gain approval, we quietly lose another piece of our inner freedom. The Stoics understood this deeply. True happiness and peace can only come from within, never from the shifting validation of the crowd. When we live to impress, we become slaves to opinions that change like the wind, leaving us restless and uncertain. Consider how much precious energy you waste every day worrying about what others might think of you. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This painful irony traps millions of us in a cycle we barely notice. We know our own worth somewhere deep inside, yet we still prioritize fleeting judgments from people who hardly know us. The real cost is a life only half lived, filled with quiet regret over dreams abandoned because they weren't admired or seen as successful. Choosing authenticity breaks this cycle and redirects all that wasted energy toward genuine growth and inner virtue. In everyday moments, this hidden cost appears as a slow-burning exhaustion that most people can't name. You say yes when every part of you wants to say no, simply to avoid someone's disapproval. You hide your true thoughts in conversations, fearing conflict or being labeled difficult. Over weeks, months, and years, this builds a deep resentment toward yourself that you may not even recognize. The Stoics taught clearly that external things, like praise or criticism, are truly indifferent. Only our own judgments give them power over us. By constantly seeking to impress, we hand over control to things we can never master, and peace slips further away. History shows us countless examples of people who paid this price until a moment of awakening. Emperors, generals, artists, and ordinary men and women, all chasing applause, only to find it hollow and fleeting. Seneca warned repeatedly that flattery and the hunger for admiration manipulate us and pull us away from our core principles. When we live primarily for the eyes of others, we slowly betray our own nature and purpose. The greatest loss is time itself. Irreplaceable hours and days spent performing instead of building a life of real meaning and depth. Authenticity reclaims every one of those moments and gives them back to you. Practically, you can begin to see the cost in the smallest daily signals your body and mind send you. After a social gathering where you pretended more than you were present, do you feel truly energized or quietly drained? That drained feeling is the clearest sign of the price you're paying. Epictetus reminded us that events themselves do not harm us. Only our opinions about them do. Seeking approval is nothing more than an opinion that others' views define our worth. Dropping that opinion isn't simple, but it always begins with honest awareness of how much it's truly costing you. Ultimately, the deepest price of trying to impress others is the slow theft of your own peace of mind. You trade lasting inner calm for temporary nods, likes, and fleeting admiration that vanish as quickly as they appear. Stoicism offers a direct invitation. Begin valuing your own reasoned opinion above all others. When you accept this shift, daily life becomes noticeably simpler and far deeper. The constant exhaustion begins to fade, replaced by a quiet, steady confidence that no external judgment can touch. This realization is the true foundation of an authentic life, recognizing the cost and courageously choosing to stop paying it. Number 2, what the Stoics teach about others' opinions. The ancient Stoics were unmatched masters at handling the endless stream of other people's opinions. Epictetus, who began life as a slave, taught with unbreakable clarity, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Opinions directed at us are never solid facts. They are merely impressions filtered through someone else's mind. When we care too deeply about every judgment, we chain ourselves to something unsteady and unreliable. The wise person learns to practice genuine indifference to everything outside their direct control, including both praise and blame from the world. This indifference is the doorway to lasting freedom. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote privately in his journal, "You always own the option of having no opinion on matters completely beyond your power, such as what others think of you. You can choose inner silence instead of turmoil." This choice is not cold detachment. It is profound wisdom rooted in reality. By refusing to form strong reactions to every passing judgment, you protect your tranquility from needless disturbance. The Stoics understood that most opinions about us come from ignorance. As Epictetus said, no critic truly knows the full context of your life or soul. Resting in that truth lightens the load immediately. Seneca advised his students to focus solely on one question: are my actions just and in harmony with virtue? He wrote, "If you do not worry about what others think, say, or do, but only about whether your actions are just and godly, you will gain time and tranquility." This direct and practical approach cuts straight through the noise of the crowd. Opinions, no matter how loud, are distractions from the only true good recognized by Stoicism, living according to reason and virtue. When we anchor ourselves there, the chatter of the world loses its grip and fades into the background where it belongs. In practice, when criticism or judgment arrives, the Stoic response is always the same simple question: is this truly in my control? The answer is almost always no. Only your response and your character are fully yours. The Stoics trained themselves rigorously to pause, examine every impression calmly, and then choose reason over emotional reaction. This deliberate training builds an unbreakable resilience that grows stronger with time. Gradually, the words and views of others lose their sharp sting because you have stopped voluntarily giving them power over your inner state. Epictetus delivered one of his most powerful lines when he said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Live your truth so fully that words become unnecessary and the opinions of others naturally matter less." The great Stoics never sought to impress crowds. They sought only personal excellence aligned with nature. By focusing on virtue rather than reputation, they discovered a freedom that no external circumstance could take away. Their example stands as proof that a life unburdened by the need for approval is not only possible, but deeply fulfilling. These Stoic teachings remain timeless precisely because human nature has changed so little across centuries. We still crave approval and fear disapproval, just as people did in ancient Rome. Yet Stoicism provides an unchanging, clear path forward. Control only what is yours, your judgments, choices, and character, and release everything else with calm acceptance. This disciplined indifference is never apathy. It is active liberation from unnecessary suffering. When practiced consistently, It opens the door to authentic living, free from the heavy weight of endless external opinions. Number 3, the exhaustion of living inauthentically. Living solely to impress others is like running an endless race with no visible finish line in sight. You constantly adjust your tone, your laugh, your style, and even your stories to match whatever room you're in. At first, this adaptation feels necessary for belonging and connection with others. But over time, it hardens into an automatic habit that you barely question. The exhaustion arrives slowly and quietly, a constant low hum of mental and emotional effort that never fully switches off. You rarely experience true rest because part of you is always performing, always watching for approval. This inauthentic way of living creates a painful split inside your own mind that drains you further. One part of you acts the role, while another part silently watches and critiques every move. Marcus Aurelius observed that we often suffer more in our imagination than in reality itself. The unspoken fear of being found out as ordinary or flawed weighs heavier than any actual rejection ever could. Over months and years, you gradually forget what it feels like to experience genuine, unforced joy in everyday moments. The mask becomes so familiar that removing it starts to feel frightening. In relationships, inauthenticity produces bonds that remain forever shallow and fragile. People connect warmly with the version of you that you're presenting, but never with the real person underneath. When you finally find yourself alone, the loneliness cuts deeper because you've been hiding your true self even from your own awareness. The Stoics describe this state as living in disharmony with your own rational nature and the larger order of the world. That inner discord is exhausting in a way that sleep alone can never fully heal. You see clear daily examples everywhere once you start looking honestly. Posting carefully curated images for likes, then checking obsessively for reactions. Nodding in agreement during conversations when you actually disagree, just to keep the peace. Each small act of pretense adds another subtle layer to the growing fatigue. Epictetus warned clearly that chasing external things, approval, status, admiration, always leads to inner unrest and dissatisfaction. Choosing authenticity begins to restore your natural energy by ending the endless performance and allowing you to simply be. The deepest and most damaging exhaustion is spiritual rather than merely physical or emotional. You sense a growing gap between the person you truly are and the person you pretend to be each day. This quiet inner conflict steadily erodes your natural confidence and self-trust over time. Stoicism offers a direct remedy. Realign your outer actions with your inner values and virtue. When you begin living in that alignment, the spiritual fatigue starts to lift almost immediately, replaced by a sense of wholeness. Start noticing the clear physical and emotional signs that inauthenticity is wearing you down. Unusual tiredness after social events, a subtle dread of situations where you might be truly seen. Living behind a mask demands constant vigilance and effort that never ends. Dropping the mask, even gradually, brings an immediate wave of relief, like finally setting down a heavy backpack you've carried for years. Life suddenly feels lighter, colors seem brighter, and moments become more vividly alive when you allow yourself to live as you genuinely are. Number 4, how to cultivate true authenticity. Authenticity always begins with honest and regular self-examination, a practice the Stoics valued above almost everything else. Each evening, ask yourself quietly, what did I do today that was fully true to my values? Where did I seek approval unnecessarily instead of following reason? Marcus Aurelius kept his private journal precisely for this purpose, to remind himself daily of his core principles. Begin this simple habit tonight, and over time you will gain crystal clear knowledge of your own true values and character. Practice authenticity first in small, low-risk moments that build your courage over time. Speak your real opinion calmly when the stakes feel safe and manageable. Choose clothes that make you feel comfortable and strong rather than what might draw the most stares. Each honest choice, no matter how minor it seems, strengthens the muscle of authenticity inside you. Epictetus taught that real progress often means enduring the temporary discomfort of appearing foolish to others in order to remain true to yourself. Shift your daily focus from reputation to virtue in every decision you face. Before acting, ask only, is this choice wise, courageous, just, and temperate? If the honest answer is yes, proceed confidently regardless of how others might react. Seneca taught that the truly wise person is willing to walk alone when necessary, guided solely by reason and inner principle. This single shift in focus frees you from the exhausting need to manage how you appear to everyone else. Return again and again to Epictetus's dichotomy of control, the cornerstone of Stoic practice. Opinions and judgments from others are completely external and therefore indifferent in themselves. Your character, intentions, and reason choices are internal and entirely up to you. Train your mind daily to give assent only to what is truly yours to control. This disciplined practice gradually moves your center of gravity from impressing the world to steadily improving your own soul. Surround yourself with gentle but firm reminders of the path you're choosing. Read a short passage from Marcus, Seneca, or Epictetus every morning and evening. When you feel the old temptation to perform or hide rising up, pause for one slow breath and ask, whose life am I living right now? The answer is always yours alone. Live it fully, without apology for your ordinary human flaws and gifts. Authenticity grows through patience and steady practice rather than dramatic overnight change. It is not rebellion against the world, but quiet, daily alignment with your deepest nature. Over weeks and months, you will notice yourself feeling more grounded, calmer, and quietly alive. This steady inner flourishing is exactly what the Stoics called eudaimonia, the good life that arises naturally from living in truth with yourself. Number 5, the freedom and strength of an authentic life. When you finally stop trying to impress others, a deep and quiet freedom begins to arrive in your daily life. Decisions large and small become yours alone, guided by your own reason rather than fear of judgment. You start pursuing goals and interests that genuinely call to your soul, not the ones that merely look impressive from the outside. This newfound liberty feels profound because it touches every corner of existence. No longer bound by invisible chains of expectation, you move through the world lighter and more at ease. True inner strength naturally follows the choice of authenticity and grows steadily with practice. Facing the world as your real self, without protective masks, builds a confidence that nothing external can shake. Criticism or disapproval may still come, but it no longer reaches the core of who you are. Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire of his time, yet sought approval only from his own reasoned conscience. His example shows that authentic living creates the deepest and most reliable form of personal power. Relationships transform beautifully when you live without pretense and performance. People sense truth instinctively and are drawn to it even when they can't name why. Bonds form on solid ground, real understanding rather than superficial agreement, and therefore last longer and run deeper. You no longer collect shallow connections born of approval seeking. Instead, you attract and keep the few relationships that nourish your soul and reflect your true self back to you. Creativity, curiosity, and simple joy all expand dramatically once fear of judgment loses its grip. Without the constant inner critic asking, "What will people think?" you explore ideas, hobbies, and passions freely and fully. New possibilities open that you never allowed yourself to consider before. The Stoics lived outwardly simple lives, yet experienced richness because they were perfectly aligned with their own nature and the larger natural order. In moments of real challenge or hardship, authenticity becomes your strongest anchor and guide. You respond from a place of clear virtue and inner principle rather than panic about how you appear to others. This grounded resilience carries you through difficulties that cause others to crumble under pressure. Time and again, you discover that being true to yourself provides more strength than any amount of external admiration ever could. Ultimately, an authentic life is the only life the Stoics considered truly good and worth living. Lasting peace, genuine purpose, and unshakable strength all flow naturally from the simple courage to be yourself. The Stoics proved through their own lives that virtue practiced consistently is sufficient for human happiness. Embrace your own nature fully, release the exhausting masks once and for all, and step into the quiet, powerful freedom that has been waiting within you all along. Number 6. Why people-pleasing destroys your inner peace. People-pleasing begins as a survival strategy, a way to feel safe and accepted in a world that can feel harsh. You learn early to read the room, adjust your behavior, and offer what others seem to want from you. But this habit quietly destroys the foundation of inner peace over time. Every act of pleasing at the cost of your truth creates a small fracture in your self-respect. The Stoics knew that peace comes only from living in agreement with your own rational nature, not from bending to every external demand. When you prioritize others' comfort over your integrity, tranquility slips away unnoticed. The constant scanning for approval keeps your nervous system in a low state of alert that never fully relaxes. You replay conversations, wondering if you said the right thing or offended someone without realizing it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to focus only on what is up to him, leaving the rest to fate. People-pleasing ignores this wisdom and hands your peace over to unpredictable reactions from others. Over time, this creates a background anxiety that colors every interaction and robs you of simple presence. Inner peace requires harmony between your thoughts, words, and actions, something people-pleasing directly undermines. When you say yes while meaning no, or hide your real feelings to keep the peace, you create inner discord. Seneca described this as living against nature, the source of all unnecessary suffering. The Stoic path is straightforward. Act according to virtue, speak truth calmly, and accept that not everyone will approve. Anything else fragments your soul and makes genuine rest impossible. You begin to lose trust in your own judgment when pleasing others becomes the default guide. Decisions are filtered through what will they think, rather than what is right. Epictetus taught that we should train ourselves to desire only what is in our control, our own character and choices. People-pleasing reverses this, making your happiness dependent on variables you can never master. The result is a fragile peace that shatters at the first sign of disapproval. Notice how people-pleasing often leads to resentment that you turn inward rather than express honestly. You feel burdened by obligations you never truly wanted, yet blame yourself for feeling that way. This self-directed anger erodes peace more than any external conflict ever could. The Stoics practiced a more fatty love of fate and accepted that others have their own paths and opinions. Releasing the need to manage everyone's feelings returns your energy to where it belongs, your own inner citadel. True inner peace is unbreakable only when it rests on your own approval, not the crowd's. People-pleasing offers the illusion of harmony while creating real inner war. Stoicism cuts through this with clarity. Your peace is yours to guard through reasoned choices and honest living. When you stop bending yourself to fit others' expectations, a deep calm settles in, one that no external storm can disturb. This is the peace the Stoics lived and died defending. Number 7. The courage required to be authentic. Authenticity demands real courage because it means standing alone when necessary, risking disapproval for the sake of truth. Most people avoid this discomfort and choose the safer path of conformity and performance. But the Stoics saw courage not as fearlessness, but as acting rightly despite fear. To live authentically is to practice this virtue daily in small and large ways. It begins with accepting that some will misunderstand or reject you, and deciding your integrity is worth more. The fear of rejection is ancient and powerful, wired deep into our need for belonging and safety. Yet Epictetus, once a slave, showed that true freedom comes from within, not from external acceptance. Courage and authenticity means facing that primal fear directly and choosing truth anyway. It is not dramatic heroism, but quiet resolve, speaking up when silence would be easier or remaining silent when others demand agreement. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet constantly reminded himself to act only according to reason, not applause or fear of criticism. His courage was in private consistency, living the same principles whether alone or observed. This is the model. Courage to be authentic is not about grand gestures, but steady alignment between who you are and how you live. It grows stronger each time you choose truth over comfort. In practice, courage shows up in ordinary moments that feel anything but ordinary at the time. Saying no to a request that conflicts with your values, admitting a mistake openly, or sharing an unpopular opinion calmly, all require courage. Seneca wrote that philosophy teaches us to follow reason even when the crowd goes another way. Each act of authentic courage builds trust in yourself and weakens the grip of fear. The alternative to this courage is slow self-betrayal, far more painful in the long run than any temporary rejection. When you hide your true self to avoid conflict, you teach yourself that you are not worth defending. Stoic courage reverses this. It affirms that your character is the only thing truly yours, worth protecting at all costs. Over time, this creates an inner strength that makes future choices easier. Authenticity without courage remains a wish. Courage without authenticity becomes mere stubbornness. Together, they form the backbone of the good life the Stoics described. It takes bravery to drop the masks and live exposed as your real self. But the reward is a life of depth, freedom, and quiet power that no amount of approval could ever match. This is the courage worth cultivating every single day. Number 8. How authenticity attracts the right people. When you live authentically, you naturally repel those who only wanted the performance and attract those who value the real you. This filtering effect feels uncomfortable at first, as some relationships fade or change. But the Stoics understood that quality of connections matters far more than quantity. Superficial bonds built on pretense drain energy. Deep bonds built on truth nourish the soul. Authenticity acts as a quiet magnet for the right people. People sense inauthenticity instinctively, even when they cannot name it, and respond with guarded distance. When you drop the act and show up as yourself, others feel permission to do the same. Epictetus taught that we should focus on our own character and let externals fall as they may. Living this way creates space for genuine encounters rather than transactions based on mutual performance. Authentic presence invites authentic responses, creating conversations and relationships of real depth and trust. You no longer waste time maintaining facades or decoding hidden motives. Marcus Aurelius sought only to live in agreement with nature, and his writings still connect deeply with millions centuries later. This shows the enduring power of truth to reach those capable of receiving it. The right people are drawn to consistency and integrity because these qualities are rare and reliable. When you stop shape-shifting to please everyone, those who remain are there for you, not your mask. Seneca observed that virtue naturally attracts virtue, just as vice attracts vice. Living authentically aligns you with others walking similar paths of honesty and growth. Loneliness may visit briefly during the transition from performance to truth, but it is temporary and cleansing. It clears space for connections that actually fit your life and values. The Stoics accepted solitude as preferable to bad company. Better to walk alone for a time than to surround yourself with people who only like a version of you that isn't real. Over time, authenticity builds a circle of relationships rooted in mutual respect rather than need for approval. These bonds withstand conflict, distance, and time because they rest on truth. The Stoics valued few deep friendships over many shallow ones. When you live as yourself without apology, you receive the rare gift of being truly known and still accepted by the people worth knowing. Number 9. Authenticity and true success in life. Society often defines success as wealth, status, fame, things that demand constant impression management to acquire and maintain. But the Stoics measured success by inner excellence and peace of mind alone. When you chase external markers while hiding your true self, any achievement feels hollow. Authentic success integrates who you are with what you do, creating fulfillment that external rewards alone can never provide. Many reach the top of their field only to feel empty because they built their life on others' expectations rather than their own calling. Marcus Aurelius, at the height of power, wrote reminders to himself to stay humble and true. His success endured because it was rooted in character, not image. This shows that real achievement flows naturally from authentic living rather than forced performance. When you align your work and goals with your genuine values and strengths, effort becomes sustainable and meaningful. Pretending to be someone else in your career eventually leads to burnout or crisis. Epictetus advised doing whatever role you have with full virtue, whether emperor or slave. Authenticity turns any honest pursuit into a path of true success. External success built on authenticity tends to last longer and feel deeper because it reflects genuine contribution rather than manipulation. People trust and follow those who are real, not perfect. Seneca accumulated wealth and influence, yet warned constantly against living for appearances. His writings endure because they came from lived truth, not crafted persona. The greatest risk is reaching conventional success while losing yourself along the way, waking up rich or famous but estranged from your own soul. Stoicism prevents this by keeping virtue as the only true good. When you measure success by daily integrity rather than applause, every honest step forward counts as real progress. Authentic success is quiet but unbreakable, living in harmony with your nature, contributing your gifts honestly, and resting each night knowing you were true. The Stoics proved this path leads to the deepest satisfaction available to humans. External rewards may or may not come, but inner excellence remains yours forever, the only success worth pursuing. Number 10. Making authenticity your daily practice. Authenticity is not a destination, but a daily choice renewed in ordinary moments throughout life. Like any Stoic practice, it strengthens through consistent repetition rather than dramatic leaps. Begin each morning with a clear intention. Today, I will act and speak as myself, guided by reason and virtue. This simple commitment sets the tone for everything that follows. Use the Stoic evening reflection to examine where you were authentic and where you slipped into performance. Ask calmly, did I act today according to my values? Where did fear of judgment influence me? Marcus Aurelius did this faithfully, turning daily review into steady progress. Honest reflection without self-judgment builds awareness and gentle correction. Practice voluntary discomfort by choosing truth in small situations where pretense would be easier. Say the kind but unpopular thing. Admit when you don't know. Decline invitations that don't align with your energy. Epictetus trained himself through hardship to strengthen his philosophy. These small authentic acts prepare you for larger tests. Carry a short reminder phrase throughout the day. This is my life, not a performance or virtue over approval. Seneca used premeditation of adversity to prepare his mind. When you feel the pull to impress, pause and return to your chosen reminder. This interrupts old habits and strengthens new ones. Accept that you will sometimes fail and choose inauthenticity out of habit or fear. This is human and expected. The Stoic response is not shame, but immediate return to practice without excuse. Progress is measured by how quickly you notice and correct, not by perfection. Patience with yourself is part of the practice. Over months and years, authenticity becomes your natural state rather than effortful choice. The masks fall away permanently as living truthfully feels simpler and stronger than any alternative. This is the Stoic goal. Philosophy not just studied, but embodied. Make authenticity your daily practice, and watch your entire life transform into something real, calm, and deeply yours. Thank you for watching until the end. If this message moved you, like the video, subscribe, and share in the comments one small way you'll choose authenticity today. Stay calm, stay true, and I'll see you in the next one.